Welcome to Small Business, Big Network, the podcast for small business owners who want big results from their networking. I'm Liz Drury, a freelance voiceover artist who knows that if you're not working, then networking could help. My guest today is Ladey Adey, who is a publisher and author of the book Successful Business Networking Online, which is the first ever book that's dedicated to online networking. So welcome to the podcast, Ladey Adey. I know you're an author and a publisher and also a podcast host. So you've got lots of things to network about, I guess. How do you network for your business?
How do I network for my business? Well, it's great to be with you and on your podcast, Liz. I network by going to the network groups, particularly those online, and it's made a huge difference to my business.
And what were you doing before all this online networking started?
So before lockdown 1.0, when it all happened, March 2020, I would generally have my own tribe, my own following, but it would be the in-person networking, going to the local groups, probably not travelling more than 30 minutes radius, and it would be with the networking groups that way.
And what did you think would happen to networking when the first lockdown happened?
Well, I was quite interested in what was happening, and on the first ones which began to come up, but it was more concern about my own business, thinking that I wouldn't have any clients during the whole lockdown time. That's what I thought would happen. I think, and talking to other business owners, they just thought that their business was going to fall off a cliff.
And what was your expectation of online networking when it first started popping up?
Well, I like bright, shiny new things, and I enjoy technology. So I was actually quite intrigued, and I wanted to know whether we were just going to take what we did in person and then just put it online, whether it worked the same. And as I got into more and more, I thought, this isn't working the same. There's different things. So I didn't have the worry about the learning curve, but I went as a participant. At that point, I wasn't running any of my own networking groups.
And what do you think the differences are between in-person and online?
I think there's huge differences, huge, which is why I wrote the book. And in that, I really explore, I think the principles of networking remain the same. So it's still about finding the trust between people, how you connect with them and how you get a feel as to whether you want to do business with them and whether you want them to be your customers. But there are protocols which have developed, and over that last year it became obvious what was acceptable online in front of you on a screen and what wasn't. And that's the difference from how professional you come across.
And so tell me a bit more about the book. So that came about, I presume, because you were seeing how things were different in this new online world and you wanted to share that with other people.
Yes, it was. I'm an author through and through. So when I thought, I'm not going to have a business, I'm not going to have people wanting to write the book. I was so wrong on that, by the way, but that was my initial thoughts. I thought, okay, then I'll write a book. What am I going to write a book about? And I just thought, I've done networking for many years. I've run groups, I've run golfing groups, I've run charity groups in networking, business networking, and I've run Athena for Women business network. So it's kind of part and parcel what I do. So seeing the online taking shape and thinking, I like that, I'm not so sure about that, what's going on, made me, and then seeing the comments people were making. So initially people hated it. They kind of went, this is a short-term gap and it will last until we go back to in person, but actually it's we don't really want to do it. And then gradually people going, actually, I quite like this because it's saving me money. I don't have to go out in the car. It's saved me time. I'm getting better one-to-ones. And the advantages started to creep in to the point now I can't see us going back to purely in person. I think online networking is here to stay.
Now, I know that you interviewed lots of different people for the book. What did you learn from interviewing those people?
There's over 120 people involved in the book. So I did them as, I let them have their voice. I had them, I interviewed some directly, some big names like Brad Burton and Anthony Thompson, who founded the Metro Bank, and others. And then other people, they've just got like a paragraph, but each time I also showcase their business, and I'd pick them up because I'd see them put a comment on LinkedIn. So one person was talking very much about Zoom fatigue, or online overload as we call it, and because of which I went back to and said, you've said that, would you write a small piece about it? So Hannah Long talked about it from a occupational therapist point of view, on how she saw the Zoom fatigue, the screen fatigue. And Helen Middleton, who's a voice expert for Lincoln School Speech and Drama, she talked about if we're using our voice all the time on screen, then we need to take care of our voice, which I know would be very near to your heart too, Liz. And there became strategies then that people used so that they didn't get overloaded.
I think that's true. I mean, I've noticed if I've been doing a lot of Zoom calls that my voice does feel tired after it, because you are having to project a bit. I think you are speaking slightly louder than you would if you were face to face with somebody. And I think it is noticeable.
Yeah, I agree. My family get cross with me. They say, you shout every time you're on a Zoom call, which for me is at least 6 hours a day. She said, you shout, you're always shouting. So when we shared an office, I thought, right, I'm going to be really good, and I'm going to take my voice down, and I'll see if I can just talk a bit quieter. And at the end of the session, my throat was sore through not talking the way I had got used to talking, which was shouting in inverted commas, than otherwise.
Yeah, I think whispering can be just as bad for you as shouting. So from all the people that you interviewed, was there anything, any stories that really surprised you?
Yes, I was really surprised when I was looking at the technology itself. And Mike Luxford told me that what was happening, mainly because of Zoom, although other platforms were being used like Teams and Remo and various other ones like that, but the majority is Zoom. But the technology people were expecting this full move into communicating through online technology to happen in 2030. And we brought it forward 10 full years. And that is not just people who do business networking, this is across the board. So the generations, the older generation who, I'm not interested in that technology and all that stuff, I'm not interested in the computer, suddenly had to, as it was the only way for them to see their family and to connect. And other areas, the schools weren't doing so much teaching online. There were so many other aspects to it, which suddenly this is the only way that we can get the communication to work. So overnight, it did take a little while, but it was literally a couple of months. The whole barrier of using this technology for the majority of people was wiped away.
Yeah.
No advertising could have done anything better than actually lockdown and COVID. It's just been one of those very strange phenomena that have happened because of it. And so we have gone forward in our technology 10 years.
Yeah, I can believe that.
And that to me was the biggest surprise.
So you said at the start that you used to run some in-person networking groups yourself before the lockdown happened. Have you actually moved those groups online now?
I'd come out from doing that. But this was about 10 years ago.
Right.
Is when I ran a networking business and was very entrenched in networking and teaching people how to network and what to do and everything like that. Then I went into the charitable sector and was the CEO for a charity. Then I wrote my first book and came out and ran my own business as a publisher.
Now, I know that you started collecting material for your book quite early on in the lockdown. So Do you think things have changed since you wrote the first draft of your book?
Yes, I do. I started writing in April. I thought, right, to write a book, you need 25,000 words. I thought, I'll do that. I'll interview about 25 people and I'll have it done in 3 months. As it happened, as I got more and more interested because I saw there was development happening, it took me 6 months. I interviewed over 120 people and it's 75,000 words. So, big difference, because the book, and I should know this because this is my 9th book, but a book has its own pace and its own timing and its own development. So they had to say, you got to stop now, because I kept seeing these different comments that people were bringing out new points. Disability is equalised online networking. Nobody knows whether you can walk well or not. Nobody knows if you've got issues with hearing. And actually you can control your own volume, and you can see people's mouths, so you can lip read much clearer because of the way the online screen works. So all of that, suddenly somebody would make a comment and I go, oh, that's got to go in the book. That's got to go in the book. But the main difference is now, looking back, and I've just done a quick revision and popped that up onto Amazon, are new networkings which hadn't even been thought of are now only being networking businesses online, like Meow. Meow's a completely different format, and they have crowdfunded or tried to crowdfund to make that an online networking business. Other people are now asking members to pay, so that's becoming a business, whereas initially a lot of people did it free. Not all, but a lot of people said, look, we're helping each other out here, we're going to run a free networking business. Now they're saying, actually, we're going to charge members, and therefore it goes into a business kind of networking instead. And actually they don't even have an in-person plan.
And how do you think those kind of new style networks compare to the existing networks that have tried to move everything online and kind of stay the way that they were, but online? Do you think it works better if people are starting from scratch?
I do, because you can be innovative. You can try and make a bit more spontaneity to happen. Because one of the difficulties with screens and online is it's all in the control of the organiser. They can mute you. You can only talk one at a time, which is great for the introverts, not so great for the extroverts. But it means that spontaneity when you're in person, where somebody says something and it sparks an idea or another conversation, doesn't happen as readily. So the latest ones are trying to create that. People are finding the breakout rooms where people are just talking to a small number of people, 4 or 5 maximum. People are enjoying that. I think the speaker section and the presentation is harder online. And it's harder to keep the attention of people, because sometimes they just put their camera off and do their emails while they listen to the person speaking, and the person's not getting the attention. But those who just try to take their in-person, stick it straight onto screen, I think they've lost something. It's a slightly different way, and you have to find what the people coming to, what business people are going to get out of it most. And it's not an hour's worth of 1-minute presentations from everyone. It's just dire, and you think, my time is my money and I'm just wasted it, and I'm only going to remember 3 people at the most. So those who have said, actually, that's not working, let's make it so people only give their kiss offline, or just 1 sentence, or have 10 seconds, that works quicker, because people, they want to engage in the one-to-ones.
Yeah. So with all that in mind then, what would your top tips be for people who are networking online?
My top tips are, take it seriously. Take it to the point that when you can be present, you are present. And that means looking into the camera. It means making sure your background's fairly tidy if you're showing your own room or using a background. one of those automated backgrounds. It's knowing that even though you might just be 1 inch by 2 inches, you are still in view of all those other people who have turned up for that view. So that little spot where you are your own live business card. So you need to really use it as such to the best. So always have your full name, because people can't find you if you don't put, if it's just Jill, they can't find you. Whereas Jill Walker, they've got more chance of finding you on LinkedIn. And then even better is to put your full name and then your business, either what you do or your business name. If you say what you do, it's better because then they can see Jill Walker PA, or PA to busy business people. So a little strap line really helps.
And how do you think people can make best use of the chat box? I know that can get quite busy in some networking meetings.
It can. I think the chat box is underused. I love the chat box, particularly when a speaker is going. I think you can actually help the speaker by putting your comments to what they're saying, so it becomes alive. And it's not just a place to put your contact details, although that's good to use, but it is called a chat box. And the purpose was that there would be interaction between people. Now, some organisers turn that off, so you can actually only go to the organiser. But those that don't means that you can actually private message other people while that meeting's going on, which can be really good fun, but you have to be very careful. If you're saying something naughty or something and you forget and you don't have it to the person private, everybody can suddenly see it. So, you have to be really on the ball when you come to use these sort of things. But I think the chat box to support one another, build each other up, and just make it clear that you're a real person and that you're alive. You're not just this person sitting in front of a screen looking a bit dour. It can make a difference, and it's so underused for using those for networking techniques.
I've noticed a lot of people will share their LinkedIn profile on the chat box. Do you think that's a good idea?
I think it's great. If you're putting any links in, you do need to put the https:// in front of the www. And the reason for that is it's then clickable. So if you put that, so it's the full string, anybody looking at it while the meeting's going on can click on it, another window pops up, and they can then either connect with you or they can see what is you've put on immediately without any distraction, without any interruption, which is really great. If you only put the www, it's hard work, because you either have to save the chat at the end, which you're busy on to the next thing by then, or you have to copy it, highlight it, copy it and paste it. And I know that is not much and we didn't mind, but now we're wanting things so quick and easy and immediate that when it takes 3 things to do to get where you want, you don't bother.
I think you have to make things as easy for people as possible, don't you?
You do. You do. I know, if I have the choice between clicking somebody's LinkedIn profile who's got the full thing or who hasn't, the one that has put the full string in is the one that I will click and connect with.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. So obviously things, as we said, are moving on all the time in the online networking world. Do you see yourself either updating your current book or even writing a second book about online networking?
I think it could be updated maybe in 2 or 3 years. I think it's settled down a little bit. So things are pretty much the same. I run a LinkedIn group now for busy networkers, and it's only for networkers. And from that, we actually do a meetup. But that meetup is straight into a breakout room, then only a 10-second introduction, and a second breakout room, and then a competition, all within 50 minutes. I do think a lot of the online networking groups are too long.
I agree.
I think over an hour, and which you can get it's worth it when it's in person, because you spent time traveling somewhere and you want a bit more flexibility, or you might have a meal involved. So having a 2-hour networking is quite standard and good, but online I'm not convinced it works beyond that hour.
No, I have to say I'm always pleased if it's an hour or less.
Yeah, well, I love Mark Jarvis, who does the Pure Network, and his is half an hour on a Monday, Wednesday and Friday. And literally it's a very simple format of that, and it's literally you say what's going on for you in your business in a minute and a half, next person, and it's all over and done with within 25-30 minutes.
What do you think are some of the biggest mistakes people are making?
One mistake is not putting their full name. Second mistake is, which is my biggest no-no, is eating. Eating on camera. Please, please, please don't do it. When people eat a meal, a sandwich, and all I can see is their mouth moving, I don't want to do business with them.
No.
If it's in person, I don't mind. I've got a further space and I'm probably eating as well. Doesn't make, that is fine. But on camera, to me, that's the biggest no-no. And I've even seen organisers do it, and it's just like, it's not nice. It's not nice. So that's my biggest no-no. It's very difficult not to be critical or be seen as critical. So initially I might be, do you really have to eat? And I realised that wasn't really coming over very well. So now all I do is I get my chat box and I move my chat box over the person so I can't see them until they're finished. But it puts me off doing business with them, because I think if you can't be professional on screen, on camera, where else aren't you quite professional? So that it's getting your lighting right. You need to have light in front of you, which is not where you normally think. Well, so if you've got your back and there's a window behind you, the light floods through and then you become a silhouette, a bit like somebody in a witness box, being interviewed by the police, or from the side. So you have to change your lighting, because people want to see you and they want to see your face. So you need to get that right. And then it's where is the camera angle? Often you see somebody and it's, you see just the head right at the bottom of the screen, and there's all this space above. So, and in the book I've got photographs of all these no-nos to help people so they can see how they can best come over, because we are now in a very visual space. We're not using our body language and interpreting like we can in person, and that is again one of the disadvantages.
I think you're absolutely right about the people eating, because when you've got that grid of people's faces, your eye is just automatically drawn to the one
like,
that's eating.
Don't mention the war. All you can see is that person's munching away, and they're not always very nice about it. They're eating with their mouth open, and and there has been occasions as well, particularly if people are using their mobile phones to participate. They forget and they pop off to the loo. And you think, no, don't do this. Put your mute on. It's, because people forget, because we're in our own homes in a very comfortable surrounding. It's harder to be more professional, or to think, while I'm in this meeting, I am actually showing the face, literally, of my business. And therefore how you dress. There's a bit in the book from Leslie Burton telling about the colours we wear. So I can't now wear some nice jazzy patterns on my top, because it dazzles. It doesn't work. And again, I want to be found. I want people to think, I quite like her. I want to do business with her. How do I do a follow-up call?
Yeah.
And the follow-up is the same. And that's where people fall down, and that's the same whether that's in person or online. You have to follow up, because that's your goddess, that's your future client, or that's somebody you want some of their services, or you want them as a partner, or you want them to refer you. And if you don't do that follow up, It's been described by someone far more worthy in the networking world than me, that it's like running a bath but not putting the plug in. Because all that water, all that goodness, all your, all that contact is lost without the one-to-one, without the follow-up.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, it's one thing to have a great conversation with somebody in the chat box, but you need to take it outside of the meeting to progress it, don't you?
You do. And because it's just like the initial interview, or it's like the CV, it gets you into the interview, and then it's the interview which gets you further to then get the relationship to get the job. And it's very much the same, the networks are your introductions. And they might go to a slightly different level, and particularly if you turn up every week, then you get to know people a bit more. But it's that one-to-one follow-up which then gets you the sale, gets you the job.
Yeah. And I want to now ask you about World Online Networking Day, which is something that you founded, I believe.
I did, yes. This is for the 29th of October. So it's going to come up every year. Hence one of those days, World Online Networking Day. And it's also the same day that the internet was founded or brought. So that's why we chose that day. And it was just because time we got to September or October, I'm thinking, do you know what? Online networking's here to stay. For myself, it's going to take a crowbar to get me out of my office chair and out into a car to go and attend an in-person. Because I can, the other day I was speaking in America, then I went to Ireland, and then I came back for tea. And that's all through the beauty of Zoom. So I wanted to celebrate that. And I wanted to celebrate the people who've actually stepped up to the plate and become organisers of online networking, particularly those who've done it as a service to other business people and haven't charged, to celebrate the business that goes on in those online meetings. And a lot of businesses happening, a lot of businesses are starting, which isn't being reported in the press. It's all doom and gloom out there for businesses. And yes, it's really hard, particularly for the brick and mortar companies. It's been dreadfully hard. But there's a lot of businesses, my own included, that has done majorly well through this lockdown and by using online techniques.
Well, that's definitely something worth celebrating. I expect I should be online networking on the 29th of October.
Yes.
So, Ladey, we'll just wrap things up now. Let me know where people can find you.
They can find me through my website, www.ladeyadey.com. There is an E in my name because I'm not a real lady. and there'll be the links to the podcast, to the LinkedIn group. If people would like to join that, you'd be very welcome. LinkedIn groups are interesting because they're more clunky than Facebook groups, and you have to tag people all the time. It's a bit annoying, but you can get your notifications to come up. So I'm trying to make a LinkedIn group interactive, which is not easy because the system doesn't help you in that way. But, it's all that development. So, that's a major way to find me, or email me on ladey@ladeyadey.com.
Lovely, thank you. Well, we'll put all that information in the show notes as well so that people can find you. So thank you very much for joining me. That's been a fascinating talk. And like you, I think that online networking is probably here to stay.
I'm convinced of it.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to Small Business, Big Network. If you found this podcast useful, please do rate, review and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with the rest of your network too.